Reverend Shad Groverland, thank you so much for saying yes to talk to me today. I just want to introduce you to our community here at Unity of Houston. You are the new executive director for Unity Worldwide Ministries and the first person to ever hold that title. Tell me how's that feeling for you?
Yeah, well, I mean, the case of that is it used to be called the CEO, president position, and the board looked at what are other nonprofits doing in that area, and that was a title that's more recognizable now, and so that's what it went with. In terms of what it's like for me, I mean, when I came into my first day, I didn't have a clue what I was doing, why I was doing it, why I said yes, how I was going to handle it, and now I'm just sitting here so grateful that I did, because the opportunities and everything that's happening in our movement today, I mean, we could do 6 hours on the blessings that are happening right now. So I'm going to try to get some of them in our conversation, but I'm jazzed.
Cool. I love hearing that. And how long have you been in the role?
I think about 4 months now, maybe 4.5 months. Parts of it feels like I've been here for 4 years, and parts of it feel like I'm still on my first day trying to figure out who to call, why, when, what's happening. So it still has that excitement of a new position, but starting to settle into, getting a flow.
Now, am I remembering correctly that you were serving on our board of Unity Worldwide Ministries before moving into this role? Is that right?
Yeah, so I was on the board of directors for 2 years. The last year, I was actually the board secretary in that position. And then to apply for the position I'm currently in, I actually had to step off of the board. So I was off the board for a couple months before I was hired and back into the board meetings. So I only had a 2-month break, and I was back in the board meetings in a new position.
I think it's good that you had the familiarity with the organization and what was going on. So that probably brings something, but you have a lot of familiarity with Unity. Tell us about how you came into Unity.
Yeah, well, I had no choice. I was born directly into Unity, and my parents actually say I was conceived at Unity Village, and I always say I don't want to hear anything more about that. Just I magically arrived. So yeah, my father's actually a Unity minister in Boulder, Colorado. He was in ministerial school when I was coming into the world. And so I've had that experience of being raised in Unity and going through the entire Unity youth program. I had the experience of coming out here for our giant youth rallies here at Unity Village, which is so surreal because my office is now sitting where I was running around as a teenager causing trouble, so many years ago. And so I know, I talk about sometimes the heyday of Unity, that there was a time when there was 500 kids, 450, 500 kids coming to the Unity Village for international rally. And the place was just crawling with kids from all over the world. And it was just an amazing experience. And we've kind of seen that era drift away as we lost relevance. We lost sort of touch with the youth, and the youth got into the world of technology and so many things that have come into play. And I'm passionate about getting that back. And not necessarily the way that it was, because the world has changed and we can't say we're going to do things the way that we did and we loved them the way they were, but to get that engagement back in to Unity, because the youth and the tools for the youth, I think, are so incredibly valuable. When I look at what I went through my teen years as a young adult, what most people go through, the tools I had to deal with those situations were so vastly different than my friends around me who were not involved with Unity. And that there were things that, I understood this is just a process. I don't have to freak out about it. I have the power to address this with my thinking and my reactions, those sort of things. To get those tools into the hand of youth today, I think is so incredibly important, especially with the amount of input they're getting from the screens and everything else coming at them. To have those tools, to have that foundation, I just think is crucial and something that we're really focusing on right now.
I love hearing that. I love hearing your passion. And also you have the direct experience of having the benefit of growing up with these teachings. I can't tell you how many people, myself included, who grew up in a very different spiritual, paradigm. How many of us have said, wow, if we could have, had this at a younger age, it might have saved us a lot of interesting turns in the road of the journey. So that's really beautiful, because you're confirming that which most of us know, that this is a great thing to give at a young age. This teaching of, the indwelling power of God is just amazing. So here at our community, we're having a conversation right now because I get to choose the talk titles for Sunday services on the way that spirit moves in and out of form. Last
Mhm.
week we talked about what I called the great undoing, that all form is, this comes from Buddhism, the impermanence, that every form goes away. And then there is also pouring itself into a new form, recreating, regenerating from the divine ideas. And so we're asking questions. We're in our 102nd year in existence as a spiritual community.
Wow.
What are the old forms that are no longer relevant? This is the way we've done spiritual community. This is the way we've done church, but they're no longer holding life for us.
Mhm.
And what are the ways that we've been doing things that still are really vital? This is just who we are. These are identifying for us. And then thirdly, what are the new things that want to happen now? What are the new forms that spirit wants to pour itself into and expression in our community? So I want to ask you that same question. What are the things that you're seeing for our whole movement, since you're now one of our top leaders in this movement? What are the old things that we don't need to do anymore, and what are the things that are just who we are, and what are the things that you see as being the new for us?
And that is such a fascinating and difficult question because, I have my idea what I think it is.
And that's why I'm interviewing you. I want to hear your ideas.
Okay, all right. So, and I have to try to keep my pulse on what's happening in the movement at large because I don't want to be a dictator saying this is what we're going to do. When I came on board, I recognized, and I started talking to the staff about, I want us to start compartmentalizing our time based on what did we do that was past unity, what did we do today that was current unity, and what did we do today that's future unity,
That's it.
and really start shifting our time towards future unity. We can't let go of past unity. We can't ignore current unity, but we really have to be investing time in where we think we're going to be 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now. If we're not investing time into that, then we're just going to keep doing the things we've always done. And when we look at unity's history, we've made efforts to try to get forward thinking, but we've almost always been dragged back by the past and the present, always dragging us into that. And so in my position, so we are responsible for dealing just with general dysfunction. If a minister is having trouble with the board, or if a board's having trouble with the minister, or there's financial issues, we're often called in to deal with that. And that's what we really have to think about. How much time do we spend in that world versus the world of, we need to create and plant new functional ministries. And that doesn't mean a building in somewhere with some town with a minister speaking there. That could be a ministry that meets in a park somewhere, or it's a campus ministry for youth, or whatever that might be. We need to think about reaching the kind of people that are looking for us today. And that's what I'm so passionate about, so excited about. I know hundreds of thousands and millions of people right now are looking for us. They are actively looking for us. They just don't know we exist, right? They might be leaving an experience they had at their old church, which was giving them an old message that was sort of, it's dying out in our world today because people are progressing into this new way of thinking, this more open-minded way of thinking, but they don't know that there's an organization like us to bring them home. And I'm sure you've heard how many people say, I finally found home when I came to Unity, or I felt
For
at
sure.
home, or here
Yeah.
was. You hear that so often. There's millions of people searching for home right now. And we are that home, but they just don't know we're here because we've had a small voice. And so when we look at what is some of that stuff we need to let go of from the past, I hate to say it, but we have thought so small. Unity has thought so small time and time again. We hear people talking about, well, how much Unity demographic would be in this city? And they say, well, I might be able to get 80, 50, 100 people. And I say, that's ridiculous. There's 1 million people in this city looking for you, or thousands of people looking for you. They don't know you're there.
Right.
Stop thinking about, I could get 80 people into the sanctuary and that'd be a success, or 500. Start thinking about, I could be reaching hundreds of thousands of people with my ministry, and that's what I'm supposed to be doing. Not, I'm supposed to be trying to get my sanctuary full with 100 or 500 people, whatever we see. I'm supposed to be reaching hundreds of thousands of people. It's an entirely different shift. We've, with our positive language, said, yeah, we are abundant. We want to be going that direction. But consciously, we've thought small and we've gotten small results because of it. We haven't thought, and that's where I look to, we sometimes poo-poo the mega churches and what they've done and their bigness and their scale. And I say, God bless them. They think big, they go big. I may not agree with everything they say, but they've built a system to reach thousands of people. Why do we not say we are the same? We reach thousands of people. Let's build systems to reach thousands of people. We have the message that they're looking for. We just haven't had the big thinking in place to build those systems and make that happen. And so obviously I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
So that's what I think about. And I like to occasionally visit what we would call a mega church somewhere and just to see what are they doing that works. They're thinking about the future. They look at growth. They look at those sort of things. And I think we get sort of caught in the present. And part of that is where I see UWM's place coming into the picture. I know it's hard to do church. I've had two churches myself. We spend so much time getting the lights on, making sure the sermon's done, getting the classes put together. There's not that much time for promotion and getting out in the community and talking to people and building and building and building. Most churches don't have the funds to even think about that, let alone the staff to do that. Well, UWM is sort of a centralized resource to say, let's help you do that. Let's start using our collective effort, because we're more than 500 churches around the world. We've got thousands of unity leaders around the world. Instead of each individual pocket trying to grab a little bit in its area, let's look at all of us as a giant collective. And even beyond that, we have our new thought brothers and sisters out there as well. We start working as a unit and promoting as a unit and talking as a unit and advertising as a unit, then the word gets out and people say, I want to find a unity church or a center or group near me because they
Yeah.
hear about it. It doesn't have to have come from that particular spot. They just need to hear about it and start looking for it, and they're going to find it online or another resource.
I love that thinking. And as far as the big churches, the biggest one in the country is 5 minutes from here, and
Oh,
I
yeah.
drive past it every day. Coming here to Unity is Lakewood, and it's the former NBA stadium here in Houston.
Oh, yeah.
And I've been to services there. It is like you said, it helps us see a bigger possibility. Not that we're not in 100% alignment with all of the theology there, but there's something about the just the vision of reaching tens of thousands of people every weekend. I think last time I saw, they had like 22,000 people come through there for services in the weekends, and it's just
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
And part of our oldness that I think we need to let go of is that we've been overly what I would call right brain or creative in unity. We've focused a lot on the spiritual element at the expense of the structures and systems that allow you to grow in a way. See, look, a single minister can't handle a congregation of 22,000 people. That's impossible. Could not serve the needs. You have to have the staff and structure of associates and helpers and prayer teams and all that stuff to make that place. And that's a system, that's an organized system to make sure
$200 million annual budget.
Right, exactly. And you don't get that by just, praying for it and it happens and it's all said there. It's a structured system that makes that happen. And sometimes we've looked at structure as negative, that's too left brain. But you look at our founders, Charles was left brain, Myrtle was right brain, and they were the balance. And together they made it work and they grew like crazy because they had those elements. She was the spirit, she was flowing, she was making things happen. And Charles is like, all right, how do we get the systems in place to take what you've got and make it grow and systemize so we can get it out there? I think we got to get a little more Charles back into our systems and a little more Myrtle back into our youth departments because she was all about the youth and focusing that energy and effort on the youth to get that to happen.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. There's an instrument, kind of a personality test that we use here called Emergenetics. It actually comes out of Boulder, and it tests thinking preferences, and we work with it with our team here at Unity to make sure that we're looking at it from both right and left brain, and also front and rear. It's a really cool tool just to make sure that we're looking at this from all angles. It's good.
For you. Yeah.
I don't have a strong preference for thinking in details. but I make sure that I have people on my team who do, to make, because otherwise those I's are not getting dotted and the T's are not getting crossed.
Every Myrtle needs her Charles. Every Charles needs a
I
Myrtle.
love it. That is great. So this is great. I really am enjoying this conversation, Shad. And I just want to let you know how much we want to support you. And as you have this bigger vision for the unity movement, we're really focused on the teaching as we practice it, and we're cultivating and growing our community here locally. Although we're no longer local, with COVID, we have people that are joining us from all over the world in our services now, and we love that. But I love that you're looking at the brand, at the raising the profile and the awareness worldwide. That feels really, really good. I think you may have already answered this, so if I wrote this question down, I want to ask it. What do you feel are the unique things that we in Unity offer that the world needs right now?
Well, let me just try, because my head goes in 5 different directions. Because
Right. Pick one, and then we'll come back to the other 4.
We offer a practical forum of spiritual empowerment attached to humility. So, and I always want to add humility in there, because I've seen a lot of spiritual directions, paths, whatever you want to call them, organizations that kind of prey on the ego. They prey on the self-empowerment aspect to a point of selfishness.
Yeah.
And we were really built on humility. I mean, you look at Myrtle's work, she was such a humble, amazing, beautiful person, but powerful, right? She was empowering, she was empowered, but humble. And she had that amazing balance. And I think she's such an incredible representation for us of that. And so for us to start looking at, how do we live into the truth of what unity is? And so the world is looking for authenticity. So when you talk about what do we have the world's looking for, it's looking for authenticity. And our movement was built on authenticity. Charles and Myrtle did what they talked about. They did what was coming to them through insights. They put it into practice. They built the buildings on faith. They had the abundance consciousness that most of us can only dream of. They just said, it's going to happen. We're going to do it because God ordained it and Spirit's working for us, and we're going to move forward and make it happen. And they did. And that's why they had the successes they had, because they were applying these tools. And people are looking for stuff that works. So we don't trying to sell them on quick, get rich schemes, but real transformation. That abundance comes through a change in consciousness, not just through the change in the words you're using or the way you're handling your money or the way you're interacting with people. It's a consciousness shift. And that's where we have the authenticity that people, I think, are looking for. We're seeing so much stuff happen in the world today that just, shatters the foundation of truth and authenticity from all directions. People need that pillar. They need that in their life. They need to be able to grab onto something they know and say, this is true. I can walk into Unity of Houston, I can look at Michael Gott, and I can see Reverend Michael Gott and see he's the real deal. I can see his staff is the real deal. I see the people seeing his congregation are the real deal. They're really working this stuff. That's where we have a chance to just blow the doors wide open on this world right now, is for people to come in and see an authentic experience, not people pretending to be spiritual, just putting on the good face, putting on their Sunday best. That authentic experience is what people are craving, I see right now, especially coming off of COVID. They're going to be heading out looking for that authentic connection again. And we have that. And it's just connecting those 2 dots, helping them find where we are.
Great. I love that. I think 2 things that you said that really stuck out in my mind, the consciousness piece and the authenticity piece. That, I think we use the word consciousness, and it's a little, tricky to define, but it's there's not a magic incantation. It's changing who we know ourselves to be, deepening who we know ourselves to be. That's the work.
Right.
And I, we've all had those kind of, a friend of mine, a mentor of mine, Reverend Dr. Kathy Hearn, she said there is kind of beginner's luck in metaphysics. Often when people come in, they take a class or 2 and they start manifesting the 3 Ps, the princes, parking lots, parking spaces, and palaces.
Right.
And it's great, and you do get it. And then I think it's a little bit of chemicalization that occurs, and then the old thought structures, they do rise up. And what we have to do is authentically deal with what's here. And then for me, consciousness building has been a process and a commitment, and it's taken time. And I've seen so many people in the New Thought movement. I've also been a part of Centers for Spiritual Living for many years as well. So I've been on both sides of the family, and I've seen it in both organizations where people come in for the quick fix. They take the class, they start manifesting, and then it's not working like it did those early days, and they're like, it never worked anyway. They're not willing to commit to really grow and heal the consciousness, and that's really what changes it. And the other piece, which I heard you say, and I just want to echo, is that authentic. We get to be fully human and fully divine, and trying to push away our humanity with a quick affirmation is not going to actually help us heal our consciousness. We have to be real with what we're doing and bring it all into the light. And so that is, I love that you said that, because that's really what people here in this community, they know that they're going to get the real deal with me. I don't like to pretend I know more than I know, but I do want to know more, and
Well,
I
I
want to
think
learn.
people today are their radar for inauthenticity is much better than ever was.
With this new generation,
Yeah,
particularly, absolutely, they have BS meters like you wouldn't believe.
right. So we just can't fake it anymore. So if they
Right.
walk in and they don't, and the thing that is we have to be so wary of, the first connection they make when they walk into one of our spaces or they join a group online, whatever it is, whoever is that first person they come in contact with represents the entire organization.
Yeah.
That first person is all of unity. And if that exchange does not feel authentic or not welcoming, especially the younger generation, to go, this isn't the real deal. I'll go find someplace else that is. And so all of us holding that authenticity, it's not just, Reverend Michael Gott's got this, I can come in and just kind of float and it's going to be all right. We've all got to hold that high watch, not to say be fake and pretend, do that work. And when we look at prosperity, I see the same thing. We all see the same thing. People come in, they get that boost, then they leave. What's so missing from there is the sharing aspect, the serving aspect. You come in, you lift yourself up, and then you reach over to lift up the person next to you. And I think that's why we start to see the manifesting tools fall apart after that first, quick win you were talking about, is because we don't then transfer it to helping those around us. It hits that, that selfishness point where it becomes about us, only us and us getting that. It's and the universe goes, I wasn't here to make you selfish. I was just to show you the power that's within you. Now you're supposed to share that power with those around you. And that's where that breakdown happens.
Oh, that's beautiful. We're so in alignment on that. You know, the Rabindranath Tagore poem, real short. He said, I dreamed that life was joy. I awoke and found that life was service. I acted and found that service was joy.
Right.
That's really it. The goods are when we begin to give back. My teacher, Reverend Dr. Petra Weldes, she would say, there comes a point when you're healed enough that you have something to offer back.
Right.
And I remember, I was pretty broken when I got to New Thought, but I didn't stay there. And I found a way to begin to give back of my gifts, as imperfect as they were.
Mm-hmm.
I may have shown up at a few services hungover to sing the Sunday song. I don't know that back in the early day.
Hey, whatever it took to get you there. Yeah, when we look at that with the congregations I've had, and really getting the culture to understand, you are here as a leader as well. Yeah, I'm here to help you get to a healthy place where you can now turn to the person next to you or the person beside you and become a leader and start helping them as well. Because a minister cannot touch every individual that's in need. You've got to have people helping people supporting each other, because they know when someone's had crisis. They may not get up to the minister or the staff that someone's lost somebody, but they might hear that at fellowship while they're sharing a bagel, or they might hear it in the pew or the chair when they're sitting there, or they're coming into the sanctuary. All that stuff is part of the ministry. And I think we lose touch of the fact that everyone who comes in those doors, virtually or physically, is a part of this and ministry and ministering to the mission, all of us. So to come and say, I was spiritually fed today and I'm going to go home, that doesn't cut it. The universe is saying, you've been spiritually fed, now feed.
Yeah. I love it. And, and the small groups, I mean, we're using spirit groups here and have for the last 2 or 3 years. And particularly in this time of COVID, that's been so important that because I'm not able, we've only been mostly doing, one way ministry, we're not seeing people. We're starting to welcome people back into the sanctuary now. But it is then when those relationships are built, not with me, but with the people in their group of 6 or 7 people. And then the leaders like, oh, did you know that so-and-so is going through a medical, thing right now? And then we didn't know, we needed to know that. And then we can reach out, and it's just beautiful. I love that the ministry is not just the ministers. It's the community that really ministers.
Yeah. And one of the ego things the ministers have to get used to is, well, I'll speak for me. Oftentimes when I'd hear people had the most transformative experience, it wasn't when I was there. It was when they were in a small group or interaction they had with someone else in the congregation. It was like, yeah, your sermon was great, but afterwards I was talking to so-and-so, and then my mind just went, I had this experience, because it is those one-on-one interactions that so much transformation takes place.
That's really it. And for me, I would just say that is the future of spiritual community and spiritual organization, is that authentic connection, building those structures that will promote people not only coming in and hearing the teaching, but then building the relationships where they can work it out and, and give back. It's pretty exciting. It's a weird time to be in the ministry business, but because, people it's no longer culturally written into the fabric of our world that everybody goes to church. It used to be, particularly in the South, you'd say, well, where do you go to? Do you have a church? You move to a new town, and but people don't go to church like that anymore, which is so interesting, because as the normalcy of church attendance has gone down, I feel like the need for it in our high anxiety society is greater than ever. And I feel like you're preaching to the choir, Shad, that we have so much that is useful, helpful, healing at this time. And I'm really grateful that you're in leadership to guide our organization to the next great good that wants to happen. Anything else you want to tell us here at Unity of Houston before we wrap this up today?
Well, I've visited you guys a couple of times, and you have an incredible facility, incredible space, powerful history. I mean, you're so blessed there that I remember visiting and thinking, I wish every Unity church had this experience. I mean, it's just an incredible place to be. And it really takes traveling around and visiting a lot of Unity churches to realize how blessed you are at Unity of Houston. So I hope everyone there cherishes that, understands that, and invests themselves in it, not just energetically, but financially and spiritually, because it's a powerful place and it's a rare gem. And it's got to be something that's really taken care of, because it has huge potential to touch a lot of lives. And that's something that should be supported and pushed forward. So,
well, thank you for that. It is a gift. And we're, I've used the metaphor a lot for a ship. And, even the front of our sanctuary looks like the prow of a ship, but we're not a ship that goes from city to city or port to port. We go from generation to generation. And we are the ones who are stewarding this ship, which carries our teaching. And so we want to do what we can to make sure that it's here, it's growing, it's vital, and we feel your support and your love, and we want you to feel ours. So thank you so much for this time today. We really appreciate it, and send you absolutely all the best energy and hope and prayers for what you're going to accomplish in this role. Thank you.